Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here. We're going to take a look at my indicators that I use day in and day out, and more importantly, how to set them up. So just starting vanilla, clean slate, just essentially how to start that process and which indicators I use. So this will be a pretty straightforward indication of what's going on, but more importantly, I'm going to probably have separate videos regarding each of them in its entirety much later, right? So for right now, we're just going to start with the foundation so you can probably follow along a little bit better in my videos, having everything set up the same way that I have it, okay? So first thing we're going to look at is indicators. So just go ahead and click up here on the top where it says indicators. First of all, we have to use TradingView. Obviously, this is all relevant to TradingView, but there are some exchanges that do allow you to set up very much similar scenarios. So you could probably set this up with other, I guess, formats, if you will. But a lot of exchanges have TradingView built in, so that could also work. But I do recommend TradingView.com. I have a link in the description below for a free month to see if you like it. But that would be recommended for you here. Now, taking a look at my indicators. So feel free to maybe take a screenshot here, or just pause the page and go ahead and start adding these to your list of indicators. And I recommend putting a star next to them, essentially adding them to favorites, because every one of my favorites are right here. These are my tried and true, my staples, right? So I'll go ahead and list the ones that I have here presently, and I'll show you how to add them and maybe tweak them just a little bit, because they're mostly standard, but they're also slightly altered, right? So here we go. So first things first is Ichimoku Cloud. You're just going to search for Ichimoku Cloud. Second thing is MACD. You're going to spell out MACD. The third is multiple SMA. That's short for simple moving average, multiple SMA. And that is Rexio is the creator, because that is essentially just kind of an add-on. You can add both, you can add simple moving average yourself. You just have to have two separate ones, right? Because I use the 50 and the 200. Multiple SMA allows you to add more than one at any given time, okay? Furthermore, we have relative strength index. So you're going to type out relative strength index. TD sequential. Bear in mind, this is created by Glaz, G-L-A-Z. And I believe it's the largest, most popular one, so it has the most amount of downloads. So it should be easy to find if you just type in TD Sequential. That's short for Tom DeMark Sequential. The next is visible range. This is the visible range, the VPVR. Volume is another one, of course, which is seldom used, but it's still relevant, of course. And then we have the very last one, which is volume weighted average price. Type in VWAP, VWAP. It's more so for day trading. I don't use it on a lot of my videos. I used to do it more, but I try to kind of keep it simple. But that would also be an indicator that I use on the shorter time frames, only for just say 15-minute down to 1-minute time frames. It's a quicker moving volume average price essentially, and it creates a really good strong support and resistance level. Don't need to worry about that for now, but that is something that I use, and I would recommend maybe checking out my other video for that, which I will create soon if it hasn't already been created by the time you watch this, right? So I'll have this all bookmarked on my site to ensure you have all the indicators that you need to learn and how to understand. But these are the ones that I use day in and day out, and this is how you set them up. All right. So what we look at first, and what I'll do is just go ahead and add them one at a time. So we'll just go in order here because everything's alphabetical. We'll start with Ichimoku Cloud. All right. So this is what it looks like at first, right? Kind of messy, kind of crazy. There's ways in which that I use it that I feel to be very beneficial, and there's ways to keep it really simple. The simple way to use it, first of all, you come up to the top left here. All your indicators will be listed there. You click on the gear icon to go to settings. Every one of these things should be enabled essentially to see what you see, but to keep it really simple, the way in which I traditionally did it and would recommend maybe as a beginner to do so is just deselect the very first 5 checkmark boxes. What that does, it creates the cloud and just puts it on the background there. So it's really simple and easy. When you want to use it, you come up here and you hit the little eyeball, it'll appear and reappear, and disappear and reappear, okay? That's essentially how it works. That's the simplest, easiest way to do it. The second way in which I recommend using, of course, if you're familiar with how the conversion line, the baseline, and the lagging span work, is just to enable those, and furthermore, to ensure that you hit the second thickness there, so you can kind of see them a little clearer. To me, it just makes a lot more sense to have them a bit more clear. And that's essentially what you're looking at there, right? We got the conversion line, the baseline, and the lagging span, okay? All right, so that's how the Ichimoku Cloud works. Next indicator here is MACD. It's short for moving average convergence divergence. I double clicked it. You might do the same thing as well. Just simply close the other one, right? Now that's essentially what it's going to look like on the bottom of your screen. Now, key little pro tip here, or key, if you double click on the screen, it'll disappear, and if you double click on the screen again, it'll reappear. Same thing with the tablet or mouse, or mobile device. If you double tap the screen, it'll essentially reappear and disappear. And that makes it easy to kind of go between full screen and additional indicators, right? So that is the MACD, and that's how that one will work. Pretty simple. You don't need to change anything at all. I've changed the colors a little bit to make it a little more bolder red and a deeper green, but that's just me personally. Okay. All right. Moving on to multiple SMA. This one looks funky at first, based on the fact that it has every single moving average you could possibly want, and I recommend not using them all. And the main reason why is because you have too many moving parts and it just becomes distracting, right? So when we click on inputs, we're going to change the very first one to 50. And the second one, we're just going to change that to 200. Because those are the two ones that I use. Some people prefer the 100 as well. You can add that if you'd like. But I prefer the 50 and the 200. Again, less moving parts, keeps things a little simpler, and it just ultimately works the best. You can leave the last three the way they are, because what we're going to do is deselect them so you don't see them. And all we have is the trend, which you want to leave that there because it kind of just highlights when you have a death cross or the inverse essentially. That is just kind of an indication letting you know that the trend has changed, right? But up here, just so you know, the way that I have it set up, I have orange as my primary. I have purple as my secondary there, essentially my 200. Okay, so that should look exactly the way that I have it set up. All right, that's how you set up your SMAs. And again, those are better for 4-hour and the 1-day charts. Shorter time frames, not so much. All right, so that is the simple moving average. Moving on to the relative strength index. Just click on relative strength index and you'll see it quickly pulls up here. The only change that I typically make is down here. You go ahead and click the gear icon, and I believe I changed this purple to white just so it can be seen a little better. All right, that's essentially all it is. You don't need to change anything. You leave it default to 14 for the input length. Okay. All right, next up is TD Sequential. This one's standard and vanilla. I do not make any changes to this based on the way that this person created it. It's set up so that way it highlights automatically when you hit a 9. It'll give you a nice bright indication there. And of course, everything else is set up the way that it should. Okay. So literally nothing changes there. And just a quick summarization, again, I'll dive deeper into this later. TD Sequential just takes the 4th previous candlestick, counts up or down from there up to a 9. Once you hit a 9, that's a state of exhaustion, and the price should likely consolidate or retrace. That's effectively the general idea. Feel free to rewind and listen to that again, because I know that takes a little time to figure out. Moving on to visible range. This is the visible range, the volume profile visible range. What this does is basically tells you the amount of volume accumulation based at a specific price point. It's much more beneficial than a traditional volume indicator that just tells you every 15, whatever time frame you're on, it'll tell you how much volume is in that. This one's more specific in the sense that it actually helps you understand, on the chart, specifically where the price is lining up, and that creates a natural support and resistance level. So right now, Bitcoin in this example is testing a resistance level, right? That's essentially what's going on. All right, so again, VPVR, which is essentially visible range is what you're searching for, okay? Next up is volume. That's very straightforward. That is this right here. Mine, I just set it up to like gray and white, but it's nothing really advanced, right? You can just literally pick however you want. I think I do white and maybe gray, something like that, just to make it a little easier, more visually pleasing. Because if you got too much red and green on the screen, it looks like Christmas all the time, and that's not really all that ideal, right? So your choice. Configure that how you like, but I use that one infrequently. The VPVR or the visible range is much more highly recommended over volume. Very last one is volume weighted average price, the VWAP. This is a much better indication on a shorter time frame. Helps you understand the volume over the last basically 24 hours. So what it does is on the 15-minute time frame, it's telling you every 24 hours how much volume has been accumulated, and it's really giving us the average range. So in other words, basically takes the volume, weights it as an average price, and tells you what should be a support and resistance level. This is something I'll dive deeper into in another video, but VWAP is what you're looking for. That's a volume weighted average price. And that's only recommended on shorter time frames, 15 minutes or lower. That is also more ideal for day trading, and you want to combine this with the exponential moving average, the EMA 15. All right. I'm not going to bother with any of that just based on the simple fact that the VWAP on its own is a very, very good tool to use. But again, more important, what it does, it helps us understand exhaustion and if something is outside of a standard deviation of where it should be. As you can see here in the last 15, each 15-minute candlestick has been well outside of that range, and it's going to collapse and contract based on that sentiment. Again, we'll look into that a little bit later. So to summarize, these are all the indications you're going to use. You're going to use the Ichimoku Cloud, the moving average convergence divergence, multiple SMA, relative strength index, TD sequential, visible range, volume, and volume weighted average price, VWAP. That is everything that I use day in and day out. These are my tried and true best indications of how to effectively just maximize your benefit, right? Now, bear in mind, all of these have caveats on best timeframes to utilize. I will dive deeper into each one of them later in separate videos. But for now, that's how you set up your indicators on your charts that is going to match the exact same thing that I see. So when you follow along in my videos, if you plan to do so, you'll have everything set up the way that I have it. All right. So that is everything I have for you here today. I hope you found this beneficial. I look forward to seeing the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.